This is, I mean, Tim, it's your channel. Do you want to introduce us?
Yeah, so this is Tanner Fernald, my childhood friend.
Yeah, Tim Raxworthy on the other line there. This is the
Still in
TnT
childhood. Still
cast.
in childhood.
Yeah. It's as much as we like to deny it, it's still the child. So it's the TnT cast here. Tim is currently studying at Hampshire College. Do you have a focus? I actually forget. Being your childhood friend, I should know, but I'm actually forgetting. Do you have a
Um,
specific focus at Hampshire?
yeah, international relations. So
I see. Okay.
yeah.
So he's studying that, and I'm personally studying psychology at Bunker Hill in Boston.
Nice,
So
man.
we're kind of just having a chat here for anybody who's watching. Just kind of a general
Anybody's watching.
and
Yeah.
anybody who's possibly watching, just kind of a general chat, kind of discussing the current political situation that we're all living in, the current society that we live in, and as well as because today is November 6th, 2018, there are in fact the midterm elections that are going on. So we're going to be looking at some of those statistics coming out, kind of discussing where we kind of fall, along those lines, and it should be a pretty good night. It's about 8:52, so almost 9 p.m. Eastern time. We are both in Mass, so both in the same time.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Mass holds true. Tim, did you vote?
Nope.
No, you didn't vote. That's unfortunate.
Nope. Yeah.
I couldn't vote yet because I couldn't vote yet because I just moved here, so I don't have residency yet, so I can't vote.
Dude,
But
I actually have a lot to say about this. I have quite a bit to say about this.
so just on the
I already spent about a half hour today talking about it with one of my friends, and probably I had a couple infrequent conversations with other people today about the election. So I've been talking about it, I've been discussing it, and I've been consumed by it, and also trying to refocus my own stance and not just say, oh yeah, I want to vote for this person because you know that's who you're voting for. So I'm with you. I'm really trying to get
yeah.
my own opinions across, which has been difficult
Well,
actually, especially as somebody who didn't vote. And in many ways, I made that decision. Like, I could have, in my own efforts, made myself vote, but didn't. So I made that choice, and I'm like owning up to it. But at the same time, I know that I have to be very selective with the people who I let in on that information, because
interesting. Interesting. So,
a lot of people, if I just tell them, hey, I didn't vote without any context behind it, they instantly have like a type of person, that they see. Like I already have been likened to an anarchist by my professor. I was likened by it.
I mean, Tim, it's kind of interesting you bring it up that you kind of just get labeled as kind of this one kind of person or some kind of apolitical figure because you didn't vote. I think now more than ever, it's way more prominent that we kind of live in a very tribalistic sort of society where people are very much separated by kind of these tribal politics where it's like, oh, I see this, you doing that. I think you're part of this larger group where it's like we seem as a society be caring less and less about the individual and more and more about the group that they either subscribe to or that they belong to genetically, whether they like it or not, either through skin color, race, ethnicity, however you want to frame it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and we were talking about some of the midterm elections. Have you been paying much attention to those at all, or
No, no, not at all.
no? Okay, okay, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, maybe you are the typical apolitical non-voter that people subscribe you to be, Tim.
Yeah, dude,
Maybe
I
maybe
know. Maybe I
maybe,
am.
maybe
Maybe
that's what's
I
going
am.
on.
Maybe I am just very, very non-political, very generic non-political person.
You like to talk a lot of politics, but all the politics that are in reality suck, and so you're just apolitical and bitter about it.
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing: is
I mean, that was a joke, but yeah.
Here's the thing: is I take politics seriously, like, and I see that why people would be upset with voting, but because I think that I've learned so much about how many elections are rigged, and also how much kind of disillusionment, I guess, of democracy in other countries as well, like through studying things outside of the U.S. I think that definitely influenced me, but it did start from my own volition, kind of telling myself, hey, I think that the real way to become empowered in society is by becoming politically deliberate. And if I personally, myself, if I personally don't feel that I'm like a politically deliberate person yet, then should I go out to the polls and vote? That's sort of one of the questions that I was asking. And personally, I don't believe that I am politically deliberate yet, or at least fully developed my
Interesting.
deliberacy.
So you're almost like delaying your gratification. Almost like it's like I have to become more of a learned individual before I really put my vote out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, I would say that's very admirable indeed.
yeah, so I think people are like, okay, you turn 18 and now you can vote, and so you should just always do it. And but I think if people out there, which this is like definitely my own understanding, because I don't know many people out there who say to themselves, wow, I don't really know. I don't really know how I don't really know where I sit on this argument yet. So I should educate myself. I don't think many people are really
Yeah.
doing that. And so it is kind of strange. Like, remember I told you that I don't really like to tell people, like, I didn't vote in the last election either, at all. And that one I
Mhm.
definitely that one I definitely didn't say to anybody that I didn't vote.
Well, I mean, the 2016 election was, I think, a hard one for everyone. It
Dude,
was
it
a
was,
choice between two people that you really didn't know to you really wanted them to you really wanted to know them better. You
I
really
like
wanted
I
to
like
for
I
them to
like
be
both
less.
of them talking about their genitalia for 30 minutes on end. That
Well,
was
that was special. I mean, that is something that people are
that's
going to be reading about in the history books. It's going to be awesome. But Tim, I think it's interesting that you mentioned this idea of kind of
would
you
you say
learning about how many.
I mean, would
I
you
was
say
saying I
yeah, dude, I want to smoke some pot. Yo, Connor, come over here. We're on a live stream, dude.
Yeah, remember we're on the live stream, so don't do anything too nefarious, Tim.
I mean, dude,
Uh,
it's CBD pot, so it's legal.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, dude, so I think it's funny that you bring up voter rigging and whatnot, and how that's kind of led to your kind of your kind of non-voting kind of idea right now. Did you we might have mentioned this earlier. The Democratic Party of Georgia was apparently caught trying to rig the voting machines in the state, and now they're under investigation by a prominent government system
Yeah, I heard
within
that.
Georgia.
That Democratic black woman, right? Didn't she accuse them
Yeah,
of
but
two
it,
black
but but
women?
it, but but it wasn't just her, and it wasn't just like any rogue individual. It was they're doing an investigation into the entire Democratic Party of Georgia, because apparently it was like more of a widespread thing. Now, I was reading sources on the right and the left about this. One thing that wasn't mentioned on some of the more right leaning sources that I was reading is that the person who's head of this committee that's investigating also happens to be running against her in running in the election for a Republican office. So that could possibly be an abuse of power. However, I haven't seen any evidence for or against what's going on there, and I don't live in Georgia, so I really can't say too much on the matter. But it's certainly interesting that we're seeing a lot of this last minute franticness kind of enveloping a lot of people on
Well,
both sides of the aisle.
it happens quite a bit now. Like, the whole Kavanaugh thing. Why was everyone was like, oh, the Republicans are doing everything really quick, but at the same time, the Democrats, all of their stuff was coming out right at the election.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, and
all the women
it,
coming out being like he raped me and stuff and shit. Like everyone to me is just now completely absolved in the instant release of the election, and it's like, isn't it best to kind of have a longer term understanding of it? Like, oh, maybe I should really think about the impact of my choice, not just try to like play aside and
yeah,
think about it in the short term and try to win. You know?
yeah, no, for sure. And and one thing that came up kind of during the Kavanaugh, hearings and whatnot is, people were always questioning, it's just like, well, why would these people lie? Why would these women lie about possibly this thing happening with Kavanaugh? And I'm not even saying they did lie, but it seems awful coincidental that they would come out right before the election, and none of these people under oath can remember the time or place that this happened. Where did it happen? It happened at a party. Where was the party? I don't know.
No,
When did this happen at the party? I don't know. And then they try to get people to corroborate it, and they do in the news a little bit, but then they end up denying it later on because they also can't corroborate any of the details. And so people are just like, well, why would these people possibly lie? Are they really that political? Is it political opportunism? I would say, just look at the response to what has happened to these people coming out. They've gotten national fame. Some of them have gotten book deals. Some of them have gotten, various endorsements from various large organizations, sometimes financial donations.
Wait, really? I didn't know that, Tanner.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you see this with like Stormy Daniels and some of the women that have come out against Kavanaugh, and against some various Republican members. I mean, they've been very positively reviewed in the media.
The overall thing is that we're seeing a trend right now that like it is becoming.
Tanner,
Yeah, we're glitching out for a second there.
did you watch the Kavanaugh meeting thingy?
Yes, I watched a good portion of it. I didn't watch the entire thing. I tuned.
That guy looked pretty guilty, man. I'm not saying this as
Uh-huh.
like a Democrat or anything like that. I just was looking at his face and looking at him wheeze, and he looks like
Dude,
a rapist. I'm not saying that every other politician isn't a rapist, and we should give a shit about
but no, but but Conrad, you have to. You also do it like this. Like imagine you're running for but Conrad, imagine you're running for a fairly high ranking political office, and nine women who you maybe have never touched or maybe even talked to before come out and say you're a rapist. This is the most important job meeting you're ever trying to get, and 9 women are saying you raped them and you were a gang rapist. You'd be kind of wheezing and freaking out too, because your life and your livelihood and your family's lives are all affected by all these accusations. It would be an intense thing to go through,
Nah, I didn't.
Thank God we have
using like, yo, listen, I know what getting accused of shit that they didn't do. You know what I mean? But then there's also like, oh, I like beer. You know, like once you reduce, like you think about complicated,
But dude,
you break it down.
But what should he have said, Conrad?
What should he have said? If he
I
was
didn't rape her?
No, I mean, like obviously you're gonna say I didn't rape her. Like who wouldn't say that?
I just feel like that situation, like nobody was prepared for it, and there's no way they could have prepared for it, and it was a total waste of time.
But it was also an effort to get like it's potentially very.
It's all still up in the air. Like people claim this guy's gonna start like cutting down on birth control laws and stuff. And
dude, they're not gonna reverse Roe v. Wade, man. Roe v. Wade is done.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying that people were talking about it like it was that was going.
Oh yeah.
So they were just themselves out because it was just like.
I mean, dude, I remember real time on Bill Maher. He was doing a show near the election, and or maybe it was even election night, and it looked like Trump was going to win, and there was a panelist there who said, "You guys get your abortions now because we're going to be fucked and we can't get rid of it."
People were saying that with Trump too. People were saying that.
it's the same kind of fear mongering, you know. It's like, you know, I'm against hate as much as the next guy, but when you have slogans like "Love Trump's hate," like you're obviously hating on somebody. You know, it's a very hypocritical thing to say. You know, love Trump's hate, but you obviously hate every Trump supporter. You know, and
honestly, I love that guy. Yo, right now you got Facebook, Tanner? Go look up Munir. And then look at his profile picture. He's got one of his profile pictures is a picture of him with Donald Trump eating ice cream.
Dude, that's well. I mean, dude, Trump's a straight up meme. I showed Tim a video about that recently. How Trump is straight up a meme.
Like, yeah, dude. I saw parts of a clip of that. That shit's wild.
Here's the thing, Tanner's. Connor Tanner isn't really. He's not a huge like Trump supporter either.
I don't think he is. I don't think he's a smart guy. I can see him. I can see him being like, you know, this or that, but
Yeah, no, I personally would have gone third party in 2016.
He's a smart guy on a screen wearing sunglasses. Like, fuck.
Fuck. Yeah, I haven't slept in 2 days. Let's go, Sean Wang. Smart guy who doesn't sleep in 2 days. Drinking his dinner out of a paper sack.
Smart guy who did sleep for 2 days and then didn't eat a drink. No.
And then, yeah, I can tell. Nice, dude.
Wow, dude. Yeah, check this out.
Yo, Tim, do we have any watchers?
Check this out.
Do we have any viewers?
Check this out.
Yo, that looks like me. That looks like me. I got the afro. That's me.
I mean, this guy's kind of.
I never realized.
You're not as chunky. You're not as chunky.
Yeah.
Tanner's been keeping it.
Yeah.
Keeping it lean.
Dude, it was kind of funny. Like I came back from Utah. And everyone was like, Tanner, like it looks like you thinned up. It looks like you got skinnier. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to take that as a compliment or an insult. I was like, Tanner, you got skinnier. So was I fat before? Or are you saying I got skinnier like, oh, yeah, like, you know, you were fit, but then you got skinnier? I really don't know how to take it. I'm at a crossroads.
Yeah, dude, I would just say sometimes you got to just MGTOW that shit.
Yeah, man. Well, you know.
MGTOW that shit, dude.
Sometimes. Oh, yo, so one thing I did want to talk to you about when we were talking about the possible cast last time was, did you hear about these Elizabeth Warren DNA results that came out a few weeks ago?
American stuff?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Fucking hilarious.
What happened? What did it say?
Oh, dude, they're so funny. So Elizabeth Warren, to get into law school, claimed she was Native American. She claimed she was Native American to get into law school because she obviously thought her credentials weren't good enough. And so she says she's Native American, and so anyway, Trump like attacked her, you know, during the presidential election when she was still a possible runner for 2016. He called her Pocahontas. He called her Pocahontas because Pocahontas is an Indian, and so she's like, yeah, she's claiming to be Native American. You call her Pocahontas, but she's like so fucking white. She's like the whitest Massachusetts lady you'll ever meet. It's fucking hilarious. Anyway, so and so fucking. She, you know, she's come under fire. She's been getting called Pocahontas, so she's sick of it, right? So she releases this video where she's in Oklahoma. She's drinking a beer. You know, she's a real American holding a beer, and she releases these DNA results on her ancestry that she had done, and she is between like I think the answer was she was like 4 in over 1,000% Native American. So between 6 and 10 generations ago, she may or may not have had a Native American ancestor. And it's just like, holy shit! I'm pretty sure I have more Native American ancestry than Elizabeth Warren. And look at me, I'm a fucking white boy living in Boyston. Look at me. And dude, it's so funny. And look at me. I'm sitting here. A white boy living in Boston, and she's claiming to be Native American. And I'm sitting here like, dude, I should have put Native American on my fucking transcript. Shit, man, I could have gotten in. Like, maybe I wouldn't be going to community college if that happened. That'd be a funny one. That'd be a really funny one. But dude, so another thing that I found out. So she was just like, I was raised with a lot of Native American culture. And my mom, she cooked classic Native American recipes, and she cited the fact that she had put recipes into this Native American bestseller cookbook. So she claims to have put this into a bestseller cookbook, and
for you, just like pure slave, dude. Just slave.
Oh my god, Jesus. Sorry, Tim.
No, you're all good. So she claims to have put all of this in. She claims to have put recipes into the Native American cookbook, but you can find these recipes. Number one, they're plagiarized recipes. They came from other cookbooks. Number two, the recipes she put into this Native American cookbook have like crab and like mayonnaise and shit. And it's like, I don't think the Native Americans had access to crab and mayonnaise. I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Maybe they evolved over time or something.
Yeah, they had mayo. They had mayo in traditional Native American society. The chiefs. It said that the chiefs would. They said they had war paint with like other kinds of paints. No, it was mayonnaise. That's what they put on their face. That's how they scared the enemy. They could just smell the
over time. That's what they did. That's what they did. They just make the mask, and then they walk into place with a gun, and all the time they just get tons of money.
There you go, man.
Did you hear about her? Like, Trump was like, if she's Native American, I'll donate $1 million to whatever charity. And then she was like, see, I'm Native American, donate $1 million to my charity.
Dude, it's so no, I didn't hear about that, but that's just funny.
No. Donald Trump was like, over the whole Pocahontas thing, he's like, she's definitely not Native American. She's fucking white. If she's
Native American, $1 million
to the charity she chooses. Yeah, and then she did it.
What charity did she choose?
No. Trump didn't end up doing it. Oh, Trump was like
Trump did a rally a couple days ago, and he said she's not Native American. I don't know why people think she's Native American. She's not. And so I think maybe he's trying to get out of that bet.
Yeah.
Fake news. That's what's happening right now. It's fake news media. They're coming after me. Donald J. Trump. It's just it happens every time. I tell them it happens every time. China is important, okay, for many reasons. But we're not going to talk about China right now. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren is not a Native American, okay?
Yeah. Dude, that was a good impression. You really warded off all people.
Yeah. Well, that's how I like to live my life.
But yeah, it is interesting to think about abstaining from all of this too.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm looking at Bloomberg right now. I'm looking at some of their election results right now. It looks like right now the Republicans currently have 53 House seats to Democrats 53 House seats. So the Democrats are about
I got 44% Republican Senate, 34 Democrat.
Yeah.
57 Republicans, 51 Democrat.
Yeah.
There's 1% other party. There's 1% other party in the Senate, dude. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, dude, a lot of people, they've been saying they don't like the Republicans or the Democrats, and I completely understand. I agree with them. I don't really like the GOP or the DNC. I would love to see a strong independent third party.
Yeah,
but dude, how is like they must weight that more because it's smaller of a percentage because it's 1% of 79 seats right now. So that's less than a person.
Well, they're probably just looking at the percentage. Maybe no seat exists for the. They're looking at the percentage for people who would vote for a third party.
Yeah, they're looking at the percentage. Yeah. What?
Dude, I remember, dude. So Elmer. So for people watching, Elmer is one of Tim and I's other childhood friends. Elmer, after the 2016 election, was telling me he was telling me like right after Trump was elected, dude, the Democrats are gonna win so many seats in the midterms. He was predicting the blue wave before the media even started talking about a blue wave, and now we're looking right now. I don't think it's a blue wave, man. I'm not seeing it.
I was telling people all about that. I was just like talking on my ass. I ran into somebody at the gas station. I was like, guys, it's the blue wave, and I said that to them, and they were like, totally like, oh man, I have to go vote.
Yeah, no, dude, it's definitely not the blue wave. And here's the thing. Like,
I didn't know what they meant by that. I didn't know who they were gonna vote for, but they just thought they had to vote.
yeah, dude. I
What is this blue wave, Tanner? What are they talking about when they say this?
Huh?
Winning all they imagine the Democrats winning all the seats in Congress and coming in and
what if they thought it was a literal blue wave, like a literal wave of water coming in?
Well, that would be crazy, but the blue wave, people thought that the Democrats are going to win like 30, 40 seats, majority in the House. But it's not looking like it. I mean, my prediction right now, Senate's maintain the Senate. Republicans maintain the Senate, and right now the House is a toss-up. But as the first results have come in, I really think that either the Republicans maintain control. And by the way, whether or not the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, Trump wins either way. If they maintain control of the Senate, he can push more of his agenda through. If they lose control, of the House, in both cases, if they lose control of the House, then Trump can just play the blame game and just blame the Democrats for obstructing the next 2 years until he's up for re-election in 2020. So either way, Trump wins in the midterm election. I think what you're going to see is either a very close House race now, or the Democrats narrowly take it, or the Republicans just narrowly maintain majority. I don't think there's any wave in either direction, which is very telling because, a lot of the times you see this kind of political pendulum where you have the person who's in the executive branch, you have the other party who votes the people out during the midterms. But now you're seeing a person in the executive branch whose party seems to be largely supporting him and keeping power in both the legislative and executive and judiciary branches of government.
Yeah. And the thing is even if the Senate gets pulled, I ran to one person and they told me that they thought the Senate was going to win. The Republicans are going to win the Senate. And so I already think people are kind of like wanting to see the full end of a presidency, in the long run. I think that's an okay thing to do because why make it harder? Why make it harder to push things and agendas through? If you can't if you're just going to basically slow the process down, what's the point?
Yeah, unless you're really directly opposed to like some of the policies they want to push through. If you're just angry for like, a lot of people, again, it's these tribal politics. People say like, oh yeah, I'm a lifelong Republican, or yeah, I'm a lifelong Democrat. It's like, what are you rooting for a fucking sports team?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Their policies change. The Democratic Party used to be in favor of slavery. So it's like, yeah, imagine you live to be 200 years. Like, yeah, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and you're like in the modern Democratic Party. It's like, yeah, I'm still in favor of slavery. What? Democratic Party doesn't support that anymore. It's like again, the tribal politics. People are just rooting for a sports team. It's like watching, the Super Bowl. They're like, whoo, yeah, my party's winning. Do you even care about any of the substantive issues behind what your party stands for?
It's weird, but some people do, and it comes out in strange
Some
ways.
people.
Now.
Oh man, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Like a lot of people do latch on to those ideas, so it's hard to stop it because when you're around a bunch of people and they're always like asking you who you're going to vote for all the time right before the election, you kind of end up having to talk about it, and so you have to choose something to respond to. So what do you say? You know, do you always just say the same person, or do you sometimes say like a different person depending on who you're talking to? Like for me, if I'm talking to some other student, you know, any other student, then normally I'll say like probably what I assume they like think is the right candidate, just from looking at them. And that's only like because I really don't know who to choose, and it is kind of like been that way for a while. I think for a lot of people.
So Tim, I mean, I'm screen sharing with you. If you're looking at it, you know, right now it's 62 Republicans, 56 Democrats. I mean, the Republicans are still keeping this 6-seat lead, and you know, if you're looking at the map, a lot of these districts you're seeing right now are leaning red that haven't been called. They're leaning red, and as we're going over the middle of the country, we're just going to see more and more people. You know, especially in some of these Midwestern states that are just going to go red. Some of these Pacific Rim states are probably going to be the last bastion of democratically favored House seats. So I really
Michigan's going to definitely go blue.
huh.
Michigan and Oregon, Washington and California are probably all going to go blue.
Dude, I don't know. Donald Trump won Michigan in 2016, and if you're looking at it right now, there are a couple counties, that are.
Sorry, I meant.
You mean Washington?
No, or is that what's WI?
Oh, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah. Wisconsin, again, there are a couple, blue-leaning states. One has been called for Mark Pocan of District 2 of Wisconsin, but a lot of these other counties haven't even started counting yet, and the other couple we see, the majority of them are leaning red. So I really don't know just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, look at New York though. Look at New York. Wait, can you go to New York?
Yeah. Let me look at New York. So if we look at New York right now, looks like none of the districts are reporting yet. It looks like some of the smaller districts in New York City have started. It looks like New York District 16 has been called for Elliot Engel. It was a Democrat. It looks like another one, New York District 5, Gregory Meeks has been called for a Democrat, as it is uncontested. But again, I mean, if you look at Pennsylvania, look at New Jersey, I mean, this is kind of a big deal. New Jersey going Republican after Chris Christie. Think about that. I mean, say what you will about Chris Christie, but I mean, he was not viewed favorably. I think his approval rating toward the end of his tenure as governor of New Jersey, I think it was less than 20%. And New Jersey is still favored.
What's that weird little peninsula off of Maryland? Isn't that part of Maryland?
Over here or where?
Off of the southern part of Maryland. If you look, there's a peninsula in the water that comes out. It's blue.
Oh, right over here.
Yeah. What? Virginia? That's part of Virginia. Wow.
Yeah. That's part of Virginia. Maryland is over here. That's why I was confused for a second. Maryland's over here. A lot of Maryland hasn't been called yet. One of the bigger counties is leaning red right now. It looks like you have around 12% of the vote coming in, and it looks like the Andy Harris Republican is leading by a little over 10 points right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild, man.
But I mean, if you're looking over the rest of this, it's very much a red leaning map so far. I mean, certain parts of Texas.
Tennessee is in Kentucky.
Yeah, I know. And dude, Michigan too. Michigan, I mean, it's already been called in District 4 for John Molinar. You know, and only 8% of the voters coming in, they've already called it.
I did not think that that Michigan would go red. That's crazy. Who is that guy? John Molinar.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's only 8% of the vote reporting in, and Bloomberg has already called it for him.
Wow.
There's Michigan. There's only like 2 or 3 districts that are leaning blue. The rest are all leaning red right now.
In Michigan, right?
Yeah, in Michigan, right now there's 1, 2, 3 leaning blue. The rest are all leaning red. One of them's already been called for a Republican. I mean, and in Wisconsin, it's still looking pretty divided. You know,
why is Michigan have large districts?
Huh?
Michigan has such large districts.
Dude, I mean, look at North Dakota, South Dakota. They only have 1 district each. They're all 1 district.
Oh my god!
In North and South Dakota.
Holy shit! Wyoming,
Montana. Yeah.
Wyoming 1, Montana's 1. Dude, that's
Wyoming has 3. And then you look at California, and you're like, oh yeah, district 42. Okay.
That's the city, dude. That's city over there.
Yeah, that's city. That's city life right there, man.
Here, wait, go check the Texas. Go check Texas.
Texas, okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at Texas, I mean, you know, again, a lot of parts, again, now near Austin and whatnot, that's obviously going to be leaning blue. But pretty much everywhere else in the state, it's going to be pretty much red. You know, and I wouldn't even be surprised. Some of these counties that are currently leaning blue in Texas end up turning red.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude. Texas has quite a bit going on there.
Yeah, no, it seems very divided. I mean, and then you have this one holdout in the middle of red country.
Where I was like, I watched this video last night while I was trying to fall asleep about this like yogi who was speaking to a crowd, and he was saying, you know, like,
hey, dude, I'm gonna move out of this room so we can keep talking.
Move your hand like this, like you now have conscious control of your hand instead of your hand just being like. You can do the same thing with your thoughts.
Yo, Tanner.
Yo.
Had to relocate. 1 second. I'll be back with you in a second. Yeah. Well, what do you think? So, what do you think about the wall then?
Like the idea of building the wall, or the actual pragmatic funding and building of the wall? Do I like the concept of the wall, or do I agree with the concept, or do I actually think of it in practical terms?
Just, do you think the policy is going to get pushed? Yes.
Well, something like this. If, you know, in a Razor Fist on YouTube pointed this out. If Trump is able to get the wall built, he's guaranteed reelection.
1 second. 1, 2, good, done. Okay. What are the ways?
So I mean, I think if Trump builds the wall, he'll get reelected. Now, as far as building the wall, personally, I think Trump's more of a business Democrat. I just think he plays to the political pendulum in order to get into power. Now, I do think that there is an immigration issue, an illegal immigration issue. And so I wouldn't be opposed to having certain parts of our border, buffed. However, I would say this. I think maybe a more cost-effective way of doing it would be maybe to help Mexico fight some of the cartels. Like, hey, we'll give you some more funding. If maybe you can build a wall on your southern border to stop all the economic migrants and whatnot from moving out of South America and traveling north through Mexico to then cross illegally into the U.S. I think that would probably work better. I mean, it's a smaller land border between Mexico and Central American countries, and that way the U.S. didn't really have to foot the bill. So Trump would maintain that campaign promise, and then you could have some troops deployed to the border, and then you could help Mexico fight the cartels, which would benefit most people in the Western Hemisphere. And so I think that would be the best way of going about it. As to whether or not I think that will actually happen, it's really a toss-up. I saw that NBC did a poll recently that said that 43% of the American public was in favor of the wall, while 52% oppose it. And so
wow. That's a crazy statistic. Wow.
Yeah, and you would think, I was honestly surprised. I thought that less people would support the wall. I would say if the wall is done right, if it's not super militarized and whatnot, if it's just kind of a basic wall so we can help maintain our national sovereignty and borders, I'd be in favor of that. If it's some massive wall that can be used both to keep people out as well as to keep people in, I'm against big government and I'm against government control. And having a big obstructing concrete structure like that, wouldn't make me feel like I'm living in the safest country.
Yeah, I agree. So you want to shove it into Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, it's small land border. I feel like it makes more sense. It's kind of like the idea of there are a lot of refugees in the Middle East. It's probably more cost effective, and you probably help more people by helping to rebuild their countries and helping to, provide them supplies in their own country where they're literate, as opposed to bringing all of those people into Western nations.
Yeah. But it is interesting how like our cultures collide in many ways. And like it's not always like I think there's a lot of people who benefit greatly from having immigrants come into the country. Especially people like of all different types,
Oh, for sure. No. I'm all for immigration, but I mean, the way that immigration has typically worked in the country is you've opened up the floodgates, people have come in, and you close them. Then there's the assimilation. There's the assimilation time, like 20, 30, 40. And then you open the floodgates again. Everyone come in. And then once enough people come in, you close them. Assimilation. But since Lyndon B. Johnson in the 60s, we've had pretty much unfettered, immigration into this country. And I think it is time to stop that, slow it down, and give some people time to assimilate. I mean, like there was a statistic for Syrian refugees. I think it was 60% of them are illiterate in their own language, so they can speak it, but they can't write it or read it. How are people from a country who's 60% of them, so the majority of them, not by any small notion, how will a country of those people who are illiterate in their own language move to a first world country where they have to not only learn another language, but read and write another language, if not learn a programming language?
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, their children. Dude, their children are bullying.
Dude, but their children are good. But what I find interesting is that we actually radicalize the children of those people in Western nations, because there's a certain feeling of guilt that we like to put out, like, oh, Western nations are great, but we kind of done some shitty shit to get to where we are. So maybe we're not. And then all these kids who are children of first wave immigrants, they're like, this is a fucking shitty country. You see what they're doing to our home country? Oh my God. And then they get pissed and they get political, and some of them end up bombing some public places. I mean, you saw that with the Sarnoff brothers, right? They were born and raised here, but they were they were radicalized here. They ended up hating America even though they grew up here. And so, I think you really want to take people into your country if you're going to allow immigration, who really love your country and who will raise their kids with the same love of country that they have, as well as the fact that I'm taking a Lyft or an Uber, and I'm just like, hey, how are you doing? He's like, oh, they're cool, but oh, very good, and you're like, you're trying to understand them, and you're like, so how long you been here? And they're like, well, 70 years. You're like, what? And they're like, 70 years. And you're like, 7 years? And they're like, yep. And you're like, holy shit, if I was in fucking Bangladesh for a month, I'd be fucking speaking, or a year, I'd be fucking speaking fluent Bangladeshi or whatever language they speak there. Like, holy shit, you've been here for 7 years and you can barely riff with somebody in your car? Oh my God. And I think that's the problem because, people don't have a collective culture or set of values or morals or a language that they can communicate with. It's gonna cause separation and inevitably tribalism, which is what you're seeing now, where race relations have deteriorated and people are, more suspicious of the out group than ever before, or at least for in modernity.
Yeah, it's probably just a product of we've lost the private sector in life. I think to some degree, kind of lost the private sector. So I think it's.
How would you say how would you say we've lost the private sector? Like, what would be some examples you might bring up for that?
So I would say that some like losses would probably be like less time spent with children with the parents. So parents are spending less and less time with their children. I would say that people have more allergies, more prone to illness. Possibly addicted, could have addictive personalities as well.
So it's almost like people have almost stopped taking care of themselves and what they're doing. Like, people just seem to be very reliant on other sources, especially the government nowadays, to take care of their personal woes.
Yeah, they don't want to be singular. They need to be a part of an organization, I think. A lot of people.
Part of the collective paradigm shift, 2070, Sam Hyde.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And part of that is a loss in the private sector, because if we were able to be more private individuals, then you would have a need and an embrace for the individual, and people would understand that. And yeah, people are just afraid for some reason. I don't necessarily know why.
Well, we're gonna see that they're afraid of that.
Here, I'm gonna go quick water break. Okay.
Yeah. Here, Tim. Why don't we Tim? Why don't you throw in some music for the cast? Why don't we turn off our screens and take a 10-minute break?
Okay. Yeah.
So throw in some music so that way if anybody's watching, there's an interlude. And let's turn off our microphones and our camera, and we'll be back in. Let's see, it's about 9:30. Let's call it 9:40. You want to be back at 9:50?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, sounds good. Throw in that good cast music then.
Yeah.
Yo, Tim. Yo, Tim.
Yeah.
Yo, what kind of music? What music were you playing just now? Not this song specifically, but the song right before it. I mean, both songs were nice, but the song before it was kick-ass.
Yeah, no, that was good. All right.
What was the song before that called? I gotta know.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my shit.
It's called it's by oh dude, it's hilarious. It's by this guy Tommy Guerrero. Tommy Guerrero.
Here, do you just want to send it? Can you send it to me on Discord?
Called Road to Nowhere, and the song is called El Camino Negro. Negro. I put it in the chat.
Oh, sweet. Thanks.
All right, man. So, any new happenings?
Let me check. I was just checking out some other things.
I'm gonna check too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's closed up a little bit for the Democrats, but it's still leading Republican 83-78. I mean, they still have a 5-point lead. Yeah, they've lost a seat lead, but I mean, they're still leading. You know, it's this blue wave that so many people were obsessing about. You know, that I've heard Elmer and Jesse talk about. I mean, it doesn't seem to be happening right now. I'm seeing more of a bloodbath.
Yeah. But it's it's gonna be more equal. It's gonna be very equal.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a Republican. It's gonna be definitely a Republican Senate though.
No, definitely Republican Senate.
But the House is gonna be pretty split.
Yeah, no. Right now the House is still a toss-up. It's been a toss-up for the last couple of weeks. I mean, Tim, here, let me share my screen here for a second because I think you'll find this interesting. One thing that I was wondering about while I've been looking at these races, if you go on Bloomberg,
onto Bloomberg.
You know, Bloomberg. Oh yeah, Bloomberg. But I'm just gonna show you right now. You see how you see I'm looking at the map right now, right?
Yeah.
Right. One thing I found really interesting. If you look at the cartogram, if you just look at the districts just laid out, it's very interesting because if you look at the map, it looks very much Republican leaning, right? Because a lot of the Republican districts are larger because they're more rural, right, than some of the urban districts, which tend to lean Democrat. But if you look at the cartogram, it really does look a lot more split. Even it might even look like just if you were just looking at this, maybe even the Democrats have at the upper hand here. You know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, look how small North and South Dakota are. They're just one square each because they both have one district each for the whole state.
Isn't that hilarious? They're so small, man. That's a whole state.
That's a whole state. That's two whole states. Just two pixels, basically.
Those people are the greatest Nazis in the world, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's the Nazi next door. It's the moral panic. It's happening. It's like Satanism, like back during the Reagan era or like the 90s. Like people are just terrified of like people like listening to heavy metal because it's gonna turn your kids into Satanists.
Yeah, but dude, Delaware is only 1 pixel too. But Delaware's tiny.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like compared to if you compare the cartogram to the actual geographic map, just kind of the difference. I mean, think about how big that is. You think, oh, that's a fucking region. That's a region right there. But over here, it's like it's tiny. It's 3 fucking pixels.
Dude, what did Westchester vote for?
Let me see if we've gotten that in. It looks like upstate New York is going Republican. It looks like Elise Stefanik, he's leading right now. It looks like you have 0.5% reporting in, but he is leading 81, almost 82% to 15, almost 16%. And it looks like 2% of the vote has gone to a third party, to Lynn Kahn, who has 39 votes currently. But if we go closer inward.
New York District 17, which is supposed to be Westchester, it says Nita Lowe.
Yeah, so it looks like 0%. It looks like it's between Nita Lowey, who's a Democrat, versus Joe Chiardulo, who it looks like he's a third-party independent voter, politician. And it looks like he's running against her. I'd be very interested to see if an independent could win District 17 in New York.
Dude, I don't think it's really. Is she independent?
Joe Ciardulo is.
Yeah. Who is that guy,
man? I don't know, dude. But I mean, dude, lives in Westchester County. We do know there are a decent bit of wealthy people there, and just from anecdotal experience, I've talked to quite a few independents and Republicans in that area. So I wouldn't be surprised if an independent / Republican or even just a centrist politician could beat a Democrat in that county.
Yeah.
One thing I always thought interesting was Maine. Maine is very split. And if you look at it, it's kind of funny. Like the majority of the population lives down over here, but look how much land goes to District 2. And
yeah.
I mean that's why they keep having the split vote in the electoral map for the presidency. Is it goes blue, but it has red stripes on it because there's the Republican vote.
Maine's pretty
much goes in there.
Districts.
You've been up to Maine a few times, right, Tim?
Yeah, I've been there.
Dude, I don't think I've ever been to Maine. Tell me, like when you talk to the people, I mean, do they seem like pretty regular working class people, or
in Maine?
Yeah, in Maine. Like, how do they, like?
There's a lot of tourists too. Actually, a lot of people come down there to sightsee.
Interesting.
So you get. I don't know.
I feel like Maine's one of those forgotten states.
Dude, the actual people who live there. If you've ever been to New Hampshire or Vermont, they're similar to that type of person.
And I do find it interesting, those kinds of those top three, states. A lot of them are campaigned in a lot. I mean, Vermont less so, but it's still, there are still a lot of, like Vermont, it has a lot of. It's very liberal in a lot of ways, but it also has some very conservative views, especially regarding the Second Amendment and things like that. Those.
They're kind of about the socialism.
Yeah, they're very left leaning economically, but socially they seem to be more conservative.
Yeah,
which is interesting because a lot of the times you see a very a very liberal social policy compared with a conservative fiscal policy. But in Vermont, it seems to be the opposite, which is a very interesting kind of thing if you think about it, especially when compared to the majority of other states and their leanings on those spectrums in the country. I'm looking at Colorado too. I'm looking at New Mexico. I mean, yeah, they have an urban center or two that's leaning, but the rest of the state is red, and yeah, I mean, maybe it's only one or two more districts, but I'm just saying, it's
definitely blue.
No, in New Mexico and Colorado. Again, it's a couple districts versus a couple districts, but I do wonder, just like where is this blue wave that people were talking about? I'm really not seeing it. Really, it's not so much about Republicans winning seats as it is for the Democrats. The Democrats have to win seats, and the Republicans really it's almost like a war of attrition. They could maybe even lose a seat or two and still be okay.
Well, but hey, look at the Senate. Look, Vermont voted in the Senate, an independent. They did Bernie Sanders again.
Yeah, dude. It was funny. They called Bernie Sanders before any of the vote was reported in.
That's awesome.
When it was 0%, like a couple hours ago, they were going, "Yo, look at Maine."
Yeah, they have an independent too. Look at him,
dude. They have that wasn't even there a second ago.
But look at that, man. Do you see that? Isn't that crazy?
Dude, 8% reporting in. He's at 56%. Angus King.
Angus King.
Yo, he's the king of Angus beef. Angus beef burger. He's the king. Angus King. Dude, that'd be a good name for like a chain restaurant. Angus King. Like people will just know, like that's where you get like the good burgers. Like it's not on some McDonald's or Wendy's shit. Like it's the next level. It's like it's better than Shake Shack now.
Man, he looks like a great guy.
Did you just look him up?
Yeah.
Yo, screen share. Tell me about him.
All right. 1 second.
Because I've never heard of this guy before now.
All right, so you see my screen?
Yeah.
So that's him, dude.
That's him. So I mean, what were you reading about him? What are his positions on things?
Somebody called him out for being a fake independent. They said that he was going to repopulate Maine with a bunch of refugees. So yeah, he was in support of the Affordable Care Act. You know, I think he's really into like the social issues. Looks like. Yeah, he wanted to
Interesting.
He wanted to repeal a tax bill. He wanted to remove a tariff on Vietnam. He wanted to arm Syrian rebels when fighting against the president. You know, all the real kind of like, you know.
Interesting. So he seems to be kind of a fiscal conservative.
He's like the new Democrat, the new kind of Democrat.
Well, it seems more like he's like a classic business Democrat. That's what it seems more like.
Yeah. I
kind of like almost more akin to like a Bill Clinton type character or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
truly, man. I'm pretty tired, dude.
Yeah, it's been a good talk, good cast, you know.
Are you kind of what do you think is gonna like happen out of this election? Do you think?
Dude, that's a really good question. I mean, so
we should close it with that. We should close it with that question.
Yeah. No, that's a good closing question. So, I mean, are you asking me like, what do you like? If like regardless of the election, how do you think people will respond to it, or do you think if like the election goes a certain way, are you asking me how people will respond to it that way, or what do you think the Congress will do if it goes a certain way? The Congress itself, not just people's public opinion.
So I guess, can I just answer some of those questions on my own?
Yeah. Of course.
So I think that if the Republicans end up getting the Senate, then I think that, like you said, Trump's presidency will probably be secured, and I think that it'll make him he'll be able to push by a lot of barriers quicker if that happens. Yeah. And so I agree with all of that, but I also think that if they were to win, then I don't know, man. I think that we'll get better economically too. And I think that we'll keep like moving along a path that makes sense, and I think there's a good economic future ahead of there because there's competition, which I think is a good thing. And Trump kind of inspires competition too in a lot of ways. So
yeah, well, I mean, I think people will definitely kind of know him as the money president, the economy president.
But if he can get through and get a lot of people who are like they're on board with the party, they understand the party, they understand the motives of the party. It's also maybe younger. They need to get more young people on board, which I think they're probably doing. And so I think all of those things are gonna start happening as well. And then if the Democrats win, then I think we're going to see another generation of like basically a huge amount of people who are split off from one another. Like I think we're going to see like
apolitical
division. Like more almost, it's almost strange that the Democratic Party is called the Democratic Party because right now, to me,
well, they rigged the election against Bernie Sanders. You know how Democratic is rigging an election.
Wait, what did you say?
I was talking about in 2016, they rigged the election against Bernie Sanders, so that way Hillary Clinton would win the primary in the DNC.
Yeah, I know. It's
so it's like how Democratic is winning is rigging an election for a corporatist versus a grassroots guy like Bernie Sanders.
I know. It's wild.
Yeah. Like what? But yeah, no, I mean, definitely to respond to some of your points, you talked about, the economy and
huh? I'm just saying now he's independent, so there you go.
Yeah. I didn't notice that. It's interesting. But and what I think is interesting, you mentioned the economy and whatnot. They're looking at possibly 5% GDP growth next quarter. And under the Obama administration, we never got above 1%. It was either less than 1% negative or it was 1% under the Obama administration. Now we're getting a possible 5% GDP. It's been like 3 point something, 4 point something. It's just been growing under Trump. And a lot of people, the naysayers of the Trump economy, they're like, yeah, but over the last year we've lost all our gains. It's like, yeah, you want to know why we've lost all the gains? It's because people on Wall Street are terrified of the blue wave that you're talking about and putting in more regulations. When Trump got elected, there was an initial crash, but then it bounced back and hit 20,000 within a couple months because people were hyped. They're like, "Oh, we got a billionaire in office." People, were excited. At least in the business world, in the corporate business world. I'm sure some of those people who maybe even didn't want Trump to get in, I'm sure some of them still appreciated some of the, the tax cuts that came later on.
Yeah.
But
my taxes went up a shit ton.
Yeah. It's it was good to see that go through, and so I think that if the Republicans take the House, you're going to see the economy bounce back because the Republicans are going to win the Senate. I'm fairly sure that they might even gain because right now I think they only have the majority by 50. I think it's 51. So they barely have a majority. And some of those guys are neocons who are technically under the Never Trump umbrella. So they're more akin to Democrats than they are Republicans. Some of those guys McCain and whatnot.
Yeah.
For RIP. So I think you're going to see the Republicans gain in the Senate, and I think you're going to see I think if the Republicans take the House, again, Trump will still have a party that controls all three branches of government. And so he's going to push through more of his stuff, and he'll probably get the border wall through if he does get to the House. And then he'll have a very strong platform to run on the incumbent. And the Democratic Party doesn't have a face or a message other than Orange Man Bad. And so, I mean, dude, that's what their message is, And I really can't come up. If they came up with a very socially, liberal message, protected the Second Amendment, wanted competition in businesses, and weren't trying to go for full on socialism at times, like I would be very under, a slightly regulated, regulated capitalistic market economy, where, every once in a while you come and break up the monopolies. I think naturally under a capitalist system, you will have companies that will conglomerate and become bigger and form super companies that other smaller businesses cannot compete with. So I think every once in a while you have to have a heavy hand in separating those, but you can't have a planned economy, which is why socialism and communism don't typically work. I mean, you look at Venezuela, for example. As far as socialism, the left was heralding Venezuela as the dude, look at Venezuela, they're becoming socialist. It's awesome, it's awesome. And then now a couple of years later, you got Maduro in there, and people are eating rats in the street. And they don't want to talk about their socialist miracle in South America anymore. They seem like they don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, whoa, what happened? I think you guys are excited about this guy, and so it's kind of funny to think about it like that. So I think you're going to see, it's kind of like people have been talking about how these midterms are kind of like a referendum on Trump's agenda, and I think right now the polls and some of the results we're seeing right now, they favor the Republicans. So, I think it's more likely that Republicans will maintain, power. And again, the House is a toss-up, so I really can't make any predictions now. But it's really not looking too good for the Democrats. If the Democrats get control, keep in mind Trump will still win, because then he can play the blame game for the next 2 years, like I was mentioning earlier. Blame everything on the Democrats. I think you're going to see 2 years of obstruction. Maybe possibly some of the far left Democratic Party trying to get Trump impeached, and then they're just going to look like they're wasting time. And so you're going to see that for 2 years, and then they're going to be so focused on that keep in mind, if the Democrats take that House, you're going to have Nancy Pelosi as the House Majority Speaker. Nobody wants to see that woman anymore. Everyone fucking hates that woman. Nobody likes Nancy Pelosi anymore. Like the far left, the true left, some people call them, don't like them. Like the only people that like Nancy Pelosi are the rich neo-libs and neoconservatives in Washington that deal with big pharma and big banks still. And that's a smaller and smaller margin in the government. Drain the swamp. It didn't really, Trump was a means to an end, but that kind of sentiment has been growing for a while. People have been kind of understanding that for a while. Trump was merely a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
Because Trump is a populist leader. So you're going to see Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker of the House, which won't go well. There will be probably a lot of Democratic infighting, which might not go well. And you'll see constant obstruction of Trump and various parts of him. But the thing, in parts of his agenda. But the thing is that the Senate is really what matters, because, let's say one of the other Supreme Court judges keels over and dies, because some of them are getting quite old. Trump still controls the majority in the Senate. So then it's like, yeah, they can still get their nominee in, Trump's nominee in. And so, you're going to see constant, obstruction. And then it really all, tomorrow, people have been saying, today's election is one thing. Tomorrow is when the 2020 election starts. I mean, who's the Democratic Party gonna put as their frontman, to lead this movement that they need so bad against Trump's right-wing fascism and autocratic government? It's just like, I really don't know what they're going for. But overall, I mean, it's going to continue with pretty much divisiveness in the country. Hopefully, yeah. I think the economy will reach enough people that hopefully the mainstream media will continue to destroy itself like it has been by constantly attacking and lying by omission. And eventually enough people will wake up to how everyone has an interest in things. And it's foolish to not critically analyze and think about people's wants and wishes, especially when it regards public information. And, I think people will wise up. And I would love to see an independent third party or independent party, rise up in the coming decades.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like something that I'm looking forward to if it does end up happening. For sure. I'm beat, dude, but yeah, thanks for
I'm beat. Yeah, no, Tim, that was a great chat. We'll see what happens. We can do another podcast. We talk about the end results and maybe some of the news that's come out after the results. We can bring up some news articles and talk about that. So I think that maybe that'll be what the next TnT podcast will be.
All right, man. All right.
All right. All right. I'll see you later, Tim. This is T and
T.
And you got this. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Yeah. We for anybody watching, we didn't organize that prior. You can tell that was it might have come across as practiced, but we just came up with that right now. So
no notes here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Timbo, I'll check you later. Tim Rax, really Tanner Fernald signing off. You guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching TnT. Peace out.